Welcome to Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, the big butch manly pop culture podcast that has gone where several people have gone before. I'm Shane Hollon.
And I'm Andrew Wheeler.
Today we are talking about Starfleet Academy, the newest Star Trek television series. It's a sci-fi drama created by Gaia Yolo, based on Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, starring Holly Hunter, Gina Yashere, Robert Picardo, and Tig Notaro, and introducing Sandro Rosta, Karim Diane, Carice Brooks, George Hawkins, Bella Shepherd, and Zoe Steiner. Whew, big cast. Star Trek Starfleet Academy is the 12th Star Trek series and part of executive producer Alex Kurtzman's expanded Star Trek universe, and possibly the last. Set in the 32nd century, Starfleet Academy follows the first new class of Starfleet cadets in over a century as they come of age and train to be officers. Andrew, this might be a surprise to you, but I'm a Trekkie.
Well, I have to cancel this whole thing.
No, wait, don't, please, I want to do this. But first, I want to hear about your Star Trek experience.
Yeah, when it came to deciding what to wear for this episode, I was like, wait, everything I've ever bought that has Star Trek on it has gone to you. I have nothing in my own. So I went for an Academy
I have nothing
instead.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
You've got Starfleet covered, I'll be Academy.
Perfect.
But still, Star Trek is something that, has been part of my media consumption from ENG at least. I mean, I think the original series is one of those things that I would catch on Sunday afternoons sometimes, but I couldn't say that I was looking for it. It was like that and Lost in Space and the one where everyone's shrunk really small and occasionally the one that's underwater. So, yeah, there were a lot of these 60s sci-fi shows. I watched TNG, I watched DS9. I think of those as my Treks growing up. Teens and 20s. I didn't really follow Voyager or Enterprise. Tried retroactively to go back and watch those. I mean, I watched quite a few Voyagers total in the course of my life. Enterprise, I watched like 2 episodes maybe of all time. And when I tried to go back and watch it, I couldn't. I just can't. But the new era of Trek, I've been a fan of, mostly. Discovery went off the boil for me in a big way. Picard went off the boil for me in a big way. But Strange New Worlds I've loved, even though it's a bit gimmick of the week, and Lower Decks I think is sublime. Prodigy I think is the only modern era show that I haven't watched, and that's not meant for me anyway. But Starfleet Academy might be my new favorite, which is weird to say because I don't think it's a perfect show, but I really vibe with it in a big way.
I know exactly who you vibe with.
There's something I really like about this show, and you get 3 guesses, and all 3 of them are correct. But let's talk about you and your history with Star Trek, and I'll just get comfortable for this.
Yeah, I don't know how long we have. Look, I've seen it all. The only 2 that I haven't finished are Enterprise, and finished in like entirety. Enterprise and Prodigy. Prodigy, like you said, not really meant for me. And I did watch the entire first season and I thought it was fantastic. And I might go back and watch the second season. I feel like one of those bad fans who allowed it to get canceled because I just wasn't like giving it the time of day I would give a regular Star Trek. Anyways. That's beyond the point. And Enterprise, famously flawed, let's put it that way. I literally grew up on TNG, DS9, and Voyager. Like, I was born in 86, and TNG started airing in 87. And some of my first television memories are watching Star Trek Voyager. I remember this episode where Neelix was going to die. Like, he had a disease that was going to take him out, and little Shane grappled with the understanding of death as a concept because of that, and that will forever be burned in my memory that I was so upset that Neelix was going to die. Ha.
I mean, wow.
Yeah, look, I was a sensitive boy.
That and Jar Jar Binks, you're just constantly worried about.
Okay, I also had a Jar Jar Binks toy. Lower Decks is maybe my favorite as a fan who understands almost every joke. And I love that there are jokes in Lower Decks that I have to Google and find out what it's referring to, because that's Trekkie nerddom to me. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
I don't know what they mean when they say the omega 46 particle. Sure, I understand omega 47. I really enjoy Strange New Worlds. I think that is like the best new era Trek live action Trek show.
Perfect.
Discovery again, I was so hyped for, and it was very uneven. Actually preferred the final seasons to the earlier seasons. I think they made the right choice by skipping into the future. I think that if they had started there, it would have been even better. And Picard, love that third season, baby. I love fan service, and that season was all fan service. Seasons 1 and 2, I did weep on the final episode of season 1 of Picard, and like full body sobbing, like catharsis. Data, Picard. Okay, it's fine. It's fine, Shane. We don't need to get emotional now. Starfleet Academy. That's what we're here to talk about. It's good Star Trek.
That's-
It's good
yeah.
Star Trek, and it might just it's just fallen outside top 5 territory for me. 90s Star Trek obviously hold the top 3 spots, and then I would give Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds 4 and 5. But I think Starfleet Academy, if like depending on what happens in the next season, it could easily like push itself up there, because it is really fun and there are so many things to be grateful for in this show. I think it's visually stunning. I think the acting is superb. I love the queerness of this show and how the queerness is portrayed. I am not one of those gays who's like, well, we don't need to shove it down everyone's throats. But I like that the queerness is just part of it and not like the point of it. I think that's really beautiful that we've come to this place in Star Trek. There are things that aren't for me. Like, I'm not really into the Mir and Terima story at all, to be honest. It's no fault of the actors. I just don't find it engaging personally. And there's something that tonally the show doesn't know if it's for young adults or for adults. It doesn't really know if it's for Trekkies or if it's trying to appeal to a broad audience. And I think this is a common thing that most Star Trek shows go through in their first early seasons, and I think the exception to that would be Strange New Worlds. Okay, that's
Although
a lot
that
from me.
kind of had a preamble season within Discovery.
Yeah, true, but it already felt established in a way. Like, we didn't need to set up the concept of Strange
Yeah.
New Worlds, because the concept was set up 60 years ago. So it didn't have that like awkwardness to it that I find most Star Trek shows have, like Discovery did have itself. Yeah. So that's how I feel about this show. I love it, and it's really fun. It has some room to grow.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I mean, I know recency bias is coming into play when I say that it might be my favorite, because it probably isn't my favorite over Strange New Worlds, and it probably isn't my favorite over Lower Decks. I think those are comfortably the top 2 when they have new episodes out. But this is the one that I've watched most recently, and yeah, we know no more Lower Decks.
Once upon a
But yeah,
time, I used to be the king of recency bias, and I really feel like you've taken that mantle and run with it, and I'm okay with that.
literally just this episode, but that's your recency bias coming into effect.
Roll the
How
tapes.
dare! I have the tapes. You'll never get them. My biggest fear about this is, like, I came into Starfleet Academy expecting not to enjoy it, expecting it to be a bad show that I would not connect with at all. In large part because the second century setting hasn't worked for me in the past. Like, I find those Discovery seasons to be less enjoyable. And the idea of everything being set so far in the future in relation to other Star Treks felt weird, felt wrong to me. But I'm over it now. I'm over that feeling, because I think they did such a good job of selling the second century as an interesting place and as a Star Trekky place. The fact that they had this massive the blip, the purge, the
The
incredulity,
yeah.
the burn,
The burn. Thank you.
the burn. The fact that they're recovering from the burn means that the technology can be kind of all reset as well and smart. And yeah, I was one of a huge number of people that came into this show thinking I would hate it. But unlike a lot of the other people who thought that way, I gave it a chance and I love it. So there's a lot of people out there who have just spent their time hate watching this show, as they do every Star Trek that ever happened. It is the weirdest thing to be like, I loved Star Trek back before it was woke, when Star Trek has literally
Who
always been
is
on
this
the progressive edge
imaginary
of television.
fan? Who is this
Honestly.
imaginary fan that doesn't recognize what it is they're watching when they're watching Star Trek? Like, it's always been the point of Star Trek to push back on in the era in which it is created and look at ourselves through the lens of like, what would future us say about what we're doing today? It's manufactured is the actual answer. And it's manufactured anger and outrage. And one of my favorite Star Trek content creators, Sean Farrick, recently posted on his Instagram that Giant Freaking Robot, the media conglomerate internet article publisher, was hiring people who hated Star Trek to write about Starfleet Academy. And it's like, well, that's the problem. We're literally paying people who don't care about the property to write hate articles about it to convince other people to not give it a shot. And then the other half of it is where like giving Paramount to David Ellison, a all-around terrible human being and billionaire who doesn't care about the things that Star Trek is talking about, and he is literally going to cancel everything that we love about this franchise because it doesn't align with his politics or his ability to make money. So yeah, the Star Trek hate is coming from people who have a vested interest in hating it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I tried watching a video that was like a bunch of people on there, like way more than two people on their screens talking about this show to understand what it was they didn't like about the show. And I could not get a grip on it other than that they use the R word a lot to describe everything. The acting, the
Wait,
setting,
really?
everything is R word. I think their actual complaint is that it's being made now. I think that's the only problem they have with it, is that this show is being made now, reflecting now, including talent that exists now. I think if they were at any other point in history, the history of television, they would be objecting to every Star Trek on the same grounds that they're objecting to this Star Trek. Like, I went through and had a look at the cast breakdowns of all the past Star Treks just to see, am I imagining it? Was it really always a woke show? In the first season of the first show, more than one woman, more than one person of color. It had 5 straight white men, if you count a Ukrainian Jewish man as white, which they probably didn't in the 60s.
Mm,
And that's the
fair.
version of Star Trek that only lasted 3 years. The only other Star Trek that has had a majority straight white male cast is Enterprise, which only lasted for 4 years. So if you want a successful Star Trek show, you got to diversify. That's the takeaway.
Yeah, it's math.
Star Trek fails when it's straight white men. Enterprise is famously the worst one, and it is the one that is supposed to be set in the past. So they went retrograde with the casting, which was a terrible decision, but that's what we got.
Yeah.
But this is the show that's given us like Geordie and Beverly and Troy and Worf and Cisco
Uhura.
and Bashir and Kira Nerys and like Janeway Chakotay, Alana Torres. Like Chakotay.
Preach, sister. Preach. Hallelujah.
Like it's never been a show about straight white men, even when the majority of the cast was straight white men. It's always been a show with aliens on the crew. If there are aliens on the crew, you're not trying to be representative of Earth's majority. You're trying to do something else. And that is Star Trek. And I'm not even the guy in this chat that's a maniac about Star Trek.
Hey, yes, no,
Show
you've
the
said it.
tapes.
You've said it perfectly. Like, this show has always been this, and the show, God willing, will always be this. And I hope though the haters eat their own shit. I don't know what else to say to that.
You say it's always been this and will hopefully always be this, but yeah, the Skydance Paramount David Ellison of it all is very disturbing. We're very lucky that the second season of the show has already been shot. Not that it would be beyond them to put it in a drawer just out of spite and never release it. But there is no Star Trek in production right now, and
For
we
the
could
first
see
time in nearly 20
in a
years.
decade or something. Yeah, like Taylor Sheridan's Star Trek could be the next thing to come down the pipeline. You know, Captain Kevin Costner on the USS Yellowstone.
Yeah.
It's we we could be headed for the worst Star Trek of all time, and these people are going to say it's good, and it won't be. But we'll see. Who knows? It's just
We'll
a
see.
very tricky time right now. But like Trump's only got like a couple of years left.
In his life?
Maybe, probably less than that in his life. Like, I don't know. I cannot imagine what the future is going to be for media that all aligned, shifted to the right to be aligned with Trump when things shift back, hopefully in a more progressive direction. I just hope Star Trek is able to ride that curse and keep being
You
Star
know,
Trek.
it has in the past, right? Like Star
Yeah,
Trek has been off the air multiple times in its history. In the 70s, there was no Star Trek television, and that was like the Nixon era. And then in the George Bush era, we got Enterprise, and that tanked the entire franchise for another 15 years. And it came back really strong. And this will just continue happening. Like, we'll see waves of Star Trek come and go, but the people who care about it and the people who want to make it will always be there because we're queer and we're people of color, or we're allies to those people. And so, yeah, I have faith that this isn't the end of Star Trek. We are
right.
just hitting a bumpy road, and it's been a long road, baby.
Yeah, I suspect
Getting them
what I
from
think I'm
there to
realizing
here.
now is that I would rather Star Trek go off the air for the next few years than see the David Ellison version of Star Trek.
Yeah,
Like, and if that means
yeah.
we never get more than 2 seasons of this show, that's a real tragedy. But well, it's not a real tragedy. A real tragedy is much darker than that. But it's a real shame
The real
if
tragedy is
we.
unfolding around us in real time. But yes,
Yeah, it's
in
like
terms of this television show, that's a real tragedy.
perspective. Yeah, no, it
It's
would be a
good to laugh.
shame to not get more than 2 seasons. But hey, I really like the first season, and I expect I will enjoy the second season too if they maintain certain things like the actors, which they did.
Yeah. Okay. That's a lot
A lot.
about that's a lot. We haven't even talked about like the content of this show, which is like students at an academy learning how to be Star Trek. And it feels very core Star Trek. I like the nods that are made to the past. I love the vision of the future. I like that we go on adventures, but much like Deep Space Nine, we're actually much more rooted in a central place. I think that is all really brilliant. Tawny Newsome, who played Mariner on Lower Decks, is a self-avowed Trekkie herself, just an amazing comedian, writer, actor, and who makes an appearance in the season, had a hand in writing episodes for this season, and it shows. I think her episode was the highlight for me, and some of the individual episodes were fantastic. As a whole, I thought it was a really phenomenal first season.
Yeah, I think the tone of the show, as you said, it gets a little wobbly in places, but I love the young cast. I think they're mostly a very interesting set of characters. I think they've
Hmm.
done a great job of finding ways to have them both experience academy life and also have real peril thrown their way. The faculty cast is also phenomenal because clearly these are all grown adults. There were no kids
Yeah.
in this show. Thank God, honestly. You imagine a show full of Wesleys.
Oh, sorry, Wesley.
So yeah, I think it's really, I said before, the vibe of the show really gets me. I really enjoy spending time with these characters. Even if I can't think of an episode that's like my favorite episode, maybe the Calico one, because it's the sexiest episode.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just a good time. Like, this is comfort television for me, honestly.
Yeah, agreed. I think the favorite episode for me would be the Sam episode, as I mentioned. The Calica one is really fantastic. And I thought it was a really good two-part finale. That felt like
Yes.
classic like big action sequence, and it also had a courtroom scene in inverse. Yeah, there were some really stellar moments in that finale. I think it's time we move on to some subheadings in our talk here. It's time to talk about the women, and I want you to lead off. I'm just going to step aside for 1 second, but please, I can hear you.
Where's he going? Okay, well, let's talk about Holly Hunter. Well, I guess I'll talk about Holly Hunter since my co-host has quit. Holly Hunter as Nala Ake sits gay on every piece of furniture she comes close to, and that alone would be enough to make me love that woman. She does not know how to sit straight on a chair. I think she's a great contrast to the other captains that we've seen on versions of this show. I say,
Sorry. I just needed to slip into something a little more comfortable.
I understand, darling. I understand. You look ravishing. You just need to do the rest of the show like this.
Oh, I've already got my earpiece in, darling. Sorry, I'm not. I feel like I'm not sitting gay enough.
Oh, that's true, actually. Yeah. And can I just
Go
get
on.
all
Yeah.
up in? It just
Yeah.
looks exactly the same. Doing a terrible job. Yeah, Nala Ake, the gayest sitter in the cosmos, a great
Mm-hmm.
captain because she is so compassion driven, because she has this long view of humanity, but does not let that distract her from the specificity of the people around her. I really enjoy. I mean, Holly Hunter's one of the finest actors out there, and she brings so much warmth and joy to the role. And she's a sort of actor like Holly Hunter and Paul Giamatti are the actors you think would never do a Star Trek, and here they are both giving the performances of a lifetime on Star
Oh
Trek
my God.
and eating it up. And yeah, she is top three captains for me.
Wow. High praise, and I like it. I see that. Yeah, God, Holly Hunter reminds me of my witchy high school drama teacher in the best way possible. Like, she was my favorite teacher. And Holly Hunter would be my favorite teacher as well. I love that she
Yeah.
has no shoes at any given time, that she balances wise, serene, brutal, chaotic. She is just so fabulous in this role. And she's playing mother, but she's also playing headmaster, and she's also
Yeah.
playing like fun aunt. Like,
Yes,
yeah,
big time.
it's a really cool turn for her. You can see how much fun she's having playing this. Like, on the
Yeah.
show and outside of the show, any of her interviews are like full of love for what she's doing here. And she's drank the Star Trek Kool-Aid, and I couldn't be happier.
And that voice. I mean, you could listen to Holly Hunter all day. That cute little southern
Absolutely.
voice.
There are other women who I love, who I've loved for
What?
decades as well. I mean, Tig Notaro, it's not her first rodeo at Star Trek, but now she is like in a starring role. And
Yeah.
my God, Jet Reno might be one of the greatest Star Trek characters. Tig
Our drop
Notaro
lesbian king.
doesn't ever know what she's saying on this show. And it shows. Tig Notaro isn't an actor, and it shows. And yet, I just can't
It's
turn
perfect.
away. And I feel like I'm not alone in that opinion. Like, I'm sure there are people who don't like her being in this universe. I don't even know if she likes being in this universe, but I can tell you I like watching her in it.
Yeah, clearly they are paying her enough to commit to this because it does seem like the most unlikely role. Like the Alex Kurtzman era has been great at both landing like Academy Award winning actors and landing like quirky comedy actors like Carol Kane. My God,
My
she's
God.
heaven on the screen. And so in this show, we have a lesbian couple played by two stand up comedians from either side of the Atlantic. And it's so good. And it's so, and the characters are so both funny and real and serious and intense when they need to be. Um, yeah, I mean, let's talk about Jeannie Asheray Lara Thok because we don't get to see enough of that character because the makeup takes 3.5 weeks to put on.
Yeah.
But we have both been fans of Jeannie Asheray's comedy for a long, long time, and I never expected to find her here.
Nope. And like, okay, you say you've been fans for a long, long time. I think I first saw her stand up on Just for Laughs, the Canadian Montreal-based stand-up festival that was cut down and edited for TV. So I've been
Yeah.
watching Gina Yashere since I was 9 or 10, far too young to be watching Gina Yashere comedy sets. stand-up sets, like,
Yeah.
if surely it was all going like this. But my God, I have loved her since then. She is so fantastic on this. They have given her maybe one of the greatest characters in the Star Trek universe. A Jem'Hadar Klingon mixed species, mixed race person is something that I don't think anyone knew that they needed. And now it is, I could watch an entire show based on that family, you know? So much anger and bloodthirstiness and honor and wit and wisdom and quirkiness. Oh my God, I just loved it so much.
Yeah, both actors' stand-up styles come through in their characters. So Tig Notaro is dry and pointed, and Jeannie Ashray has always been loud and boisterous, and the energy is so different between these two women, and it's so good together. Like, they're really fun to watch together.
They really are. Carice Brooks, now we're heading into the cadets. I
Mhm.
really love Carice Brooks as Sam. I think it's a fantastic characterization. The idea of the character, the first holographic student enrolled at Starfleet. Okay, sure. Why not?
Go on,
There's room for everybody. Let's say that.
let's just say that.
But she is the classic Spock, Data, fish out of
Yeah.
water, doesn't understand the nuances of what it is to be human, and we get to learn how to be human through her eyes. Really brilliant. Once again, her starring episode is, I think, the highlight of the season for me, and her character is also like essentially researching Black excellence, and that whole episode being a love letter to Benjamin Sisko / Avery Brooks. And then we'll get to him, but we get a Sarah Lofton, Jake Sisko cameo at the end. I mean, the love that I have for Carice Brooks in making that episode as fantastic as it
And
ended up
Tawny
being,
Newsome.
like it and Tawny Newsome, like those two women together really made for a standout episode of Star Trek like across the entire canon.
Yeah, Carice Brooks' Sam was the character I came in thinking I'm gonna struggle with this one because she's so sort of bright and chipper, and I thought she was going to be playing like the sort of idiot savant character.
Mm-hmm.
I did not like the capacity to be annoying for this character was huge.
Mm-hmm.
But she really won me over. Like the performance, I think, won me over first, but also the character is a really interesting character, and she grows in a very like deliberate way. We see Sam version 2 in the latter half of the season, and clearly that was always the plan. And it's great. It's such a smart way to handle that character, to introduce her as this sort of blank slate who's a little hard to get to know and a little hard to love, and then have her this complication of a relationship with the Doctor that really, I think, strengthened that character a lot and was really easy to buy into. So yeah, Carice Brooks has actually emerged as one of my favorites when I thought she was going to be the worst. She would be portraying the worst character in the show. She is not. I mean, there are no bad characters, but there are worse characters than Sam.
And let's talk about them. uh Tatiana Maslany is always wonderful, and I'm
Yes.
so glad that she is part of the canon. Another like mother figure character on this show, who kind of upends expectations of the mother character role in that, I
Yep.
mean, she's an absent mother and not by choice, but she has a lot of anger and a lot of pain and also a lot of love and care. And yeah, I don't think that's a combination that we often see in our mother characters in this universe. So it was quite refreshing.
Let's talk about Terima and Genesis because I have to talk about them together because I have a hard time distinguishing them as characters. These are the
Thank
two
you. Thank you for saying
that
it.
I feel let down by.
Yeah.
Um, they're two not like the other girls. They're two daddy's girls. They are two girls that want to be warriors in a world that still seems to have some issue with that. They feel too much alike to me that I can't really get connected to either of them. And Surima is maybe the less interesting and gets the more plot point, and I love a Betazoid as much as anyone. I was a Luxana Troy defender from the get-go. So, you
Preach.
know, I mean, I think maybe my problem with this Betazoid, Beta Z, this
Betazoid.
version
It's okay.
is that she's not, she is not flamboyant. Like, what did you do? What happened in the 100 years
Thank you.
since
Thank
the old Betazoid?
600, but who's counting? It's that's my problem as well. Like, Deanna is the less flamboyant between her and her mother Luoxana. That's but also Deanna is like half Betazoid. But Deanna also is like a queen. Like she has this regal attitude and she gets the most absurd storylines in TNG. And Marina Sirtis' ability to portray that character in what must have been a really difficult filming
Poise.
situation for women at the time. Incredible work. Deanna in the films, adore. She gets to be silly. She gets to have those moments of fun. This Betazoid, Tarima, is just, she's emotional and that's her character.
Yeah,
And it doesn't work anymore like it did in those first seasons of TNG. And it arguably didn't work in those first seasons of TNG, right?
yeah,
And exactly like you said, like her and Genesis, it feels like we split one character into two, and I'm not sure why. And
yeah,
Genesis should have been the more interesting character. Like, why wasn't Genesis the Betazoid character? I don't understand. And then
yeah,
we could have had this love triangle between Darum and Genesis and Mir that would have made sense, but the Mir and Tarima storyline kind of muddles some of the storylines throughout the season, and I
yeah,
find it brings the momentum to a crashing halt every time, where if it were Genesis, someone who had like ambition and drive and like real competitive edge to her, it might have not felt like we were slowing down so much because the stakes would have felt higher. I don't really know how to verbalize what it is I'm trying to get at. And it's no shade to Tarima's actor, who is Zoe Steiner. Yes. Like, Zoe Steiner isn't doing a bad job. She has, I think, maybe the most difficult job on the show. I
yeah.
just think that this character was written.
Yeah, I needed one of these two characters, I think, to fill the role that the Klingon usually fills in a show, because we know that this Klingon is atypical. So let's have anger issues and give them to either Genesis or Tarima. Like, it would make sense for either one of them to be that character. Maybe Tarima
Yes.
more so. Like, if she were actually a bit bloodthirsty, which is kind of how she's introduced as being like this. She's going to the warrior school. She doesn't want to be in the regular school. She wants to be in the cool school. She, if that side of her was played up and she was a bit violent and a bit of
Who's
a loose
canon?
cannon,
Hmm.
she'd be a much more interesting character. I don't know. Did they think that having a character who would be more macho than Caleb Meir in that romantic relationship would sell badly? Because it wouldn't. I think they are written the same. Both, one of them, her dad is the president, and the other, her dad is like a 5-star general, and it's like they're both hung up on being the best person that they can be to their daddy. I mean, Darren kind of has that arc as well. They need to just diversify
Yeah.
these things a little
Everyone
bit.
is a prince or a princess in this show.
Classic young adult fiction. Uh,
And we're
yeah,
all
and
orphans. Yeah.
also, it's not even a love triangle, it's a love bow tie. You've got Caleb and Tarima and Darum, and then Darum and Jaden and Kyle. And it's like that, the first fictional love bow tie that I can remember seeing. And I feel like
Oh
we're
my
not going to
God.
get to really unpack that.
Are we going to get a Star Trek polycule by the end of season 2? That would be incredible.
Maybe that's when they cancel the show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would cancel it for that. Okay, let's talk about the boys. There's so many boys. There's so many good boys.
Good boys. Yeah, let's start with Sandro Rosta as Caleb Meir,
Yeah.
because he took my breath away. Like, that is a beautiful, beautiful man. Like, of course, when they announced the casting for all these shows, I was like, oh, pretty, pretty, pretty. Like, I'm intrigued. I did not expect to be knocked on my heels as much as I was by how beautiful Sandra Rosta is. That man's got a long and beautiful future ahead of him because
And a
they
long
don't
and
make many
beautiful
men that
body.
look like me. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, honestly, he's one of those guys who you think is going to be lean, and then his shirt comes off, and it's like, he's big.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't shy away from that. There are so many shots
No,
of him shirtless in this teen young adult show. It's very titillating.
there's basically a whole episode where he's lying on a recliner with the camera basically just lovingly grazing
Caressing
up and
his
down. Okay, it's
body.
not the whole episode, it's
Hmm.
like 5 minutes, but it felt like a
It
whole
felt like a
episode
long
to
time.
me.
Such beautiful eyes, such a
Yeah,
beautiful body, like a really uniquely but wonderfully angular face, like it's such a pointed chin and really high cheekbones. And he's also really fantastic on the show. Like he is another, I mean, they're all kind of outsiders, but he's the real outsider. He's the one who didn't want to be there in the first place,
yeah,
and he sells that. And he also has like this, like the biggest transformation from episode 1 to episode 10. Sandro Rosta did a really fantastic job in grounding this show around one person, something that recent Star Trek has shied away from.
yeah. I think Caleb Mir is an interesting character when he could have easily been another. He could have been annoying. Like, it's kind of like
Mhm.
Sam all over again. Very easy for these teenage characters to be just annoying, entitled, and loud. But he plays the specificity and the nuance of that character really well, and made me interested in his journey, even though, like, that having the weight of the whole show on his shoulders is something that often turns me off a character, because it's like, what if I don't connect with this storyline? What if this is not the most interesting? And it's not the most interesting story to me in this show, but I think he delivered it well enough, and such a great rapport with Holly Hunter that
Mhm.
it absolutely sold it for me.
We also have to talk about George Hawkins and his beautiful baby face. Darum Ramey, the Kionian prince who only gets into Kionian drag twice because that looks
Yeah.
expensive and difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, they really have been like, wait, do we do this? And I guess we do this. Yeah, poor Darren never gets to take his he gets to take his clothes off, but he doesn't get to take his face off very often.
Ooh,
He is a
face.
brat,
Oh.
he is a jock, and he is a prince. Why not just tick all my boxes at once? I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I love Darren. Darren is, I think, my favorite character on the show. And George Hawkins, beautiful. The fact that he does have that sort of, like, chubby cheek face, like, that
Hmm.
he's cut and he is gorgeous, but he is playing such a bratty character, and it's so perfect for that sort of handsome alpha jock face to have just a little bit of the brat in it.
Absolutely.
George Hawkins, fabulous. I love the comedy of the character, and I love the sort of sluttiness of the character. We need more boy
Such
sluts in Star Trek.
bisexual energy reigning
Mhm.
supreme. And I think it's meant to be that way. There are moments where Darum seems to be upset that Jaden has gone with another boy other than him.
Yes. There is dialogue in the
First
character.
episode?
Now I can't remember the name of
Second episode?
second or third. Yeah, where he talks about sleeping with a guy and his sister separately, or
Oh,
a guy
I
and his
missed that.
girlfriend, or something. Yeah, but his bisexuality is in the text, and so the
Oh, thank
relationship
God.
with Jaden is definitely going somewhere. I just wish it would get there faster.
Come on.
Because I need to see these boys kiss. But yeah, there is a definite bisexuality in the canon for this boy, and I think even in the episode where he goes back to his home planet, there's some talk about, like, could have ended up with, like, gender is not that important to their people in terms of who you hook up with.
Right. Pushing boundaries. Speaking of pushing boundaries, Karim Diane as the tender Klingon. Klingon diversity was so necessary, and I didn't know I needed it.
A gay Klingon in a skirt. I mean,
A
love
scant,
that.
thank you very much. We have a term for it in Star Trek.
Sorry. Oh, I hate that.
Show me a scan.
No, over my dead body. Yeah, this is another 10 out of 10 beauty in Karim Diane. He unfortunately is buried a little under the makeup, but still, Jaden is also gorgeous. The eyes are
A hot
beautiful.
Klingon for
The
sure.
bone structure is beautiful. I can't think of another Star Trek show which has got three men as gorgeous as these three in the main cast. It's like Julian Bashir is in the show three times. Like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Oh, love the Sadig love. Uh, yeah, I mean, he's out of Klingon. He is so fine. I love
Supermodel.
his Team Karim Instagram account where he's just posting so much about love for this show and love for this character and being a queer black actor playing a queer Klingon role and how important that is to him. God, I love everything about it. I love this character. I love that Jaden is unapologetically queer and is comfortable in that when it would be so easy to assume that the very conservative Klingon species as it's written would never allow for this. We are showing that, like, oh no, he's kind of like, yeah, his family knows he's different, but they don't actually punish him for that.
Yeah, it's this. I wish that those female characters that we talked about were given as much complexity as these male characters have been given.
Exactly.
Speaking of complex, should we Nuzbraka? I mean, we have to talk about Paul Giamatti in the boys section because this is one of the most fun Star Trek villains I can ever remember seeing. He is absolute theatre. He is a perfect nemesis to RK and a perfect
Mhm.
scene partner to Holly Hunter. Again, never thought I'd see Paul Giamatti in a Star Trek show, let alone relishing it this much. Like, he leaves nothing on the table.
No.
Great villain.
No, and it could be so easy for this character to feel like a clown, to be
Yeah.
over the top in a way that doesn't feel earned. But Paul Giamatti does over the top so well that it always feels earned, and it also somehow feels grounded. Like there's a
Yeah.
reason why this man is so angry and chaotic. And yeah, he was so fun to watch. He is the perfect villain for a show about like young adults who are trying to learn how to follow the rules, and he's like, well, this is what happens when you don't.
Yes. I mean, young adult stories with a pirate villain. I mean, that's just classic.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
one last boy I want to mention is Oded Fair as Daddy.
thank you.
We love Oded Fair. He's gorgeous. But the final episode where they showed the photos of them as kids, and his photo was him as like just the coolest teenager you've ever seen in
Yeah.
your life. And it was like, oh, of course that's Oded Fair.
Yeah.
God
Oh
damn.
yeah. Always. He's always had it. I also mentioned the name, but Cyric Lofton, aging like fine Tholian brandy. That man is also becoming daddy. There's this really cute clip where he hands Carice Brooks the phone and Avery Brooks is on the line. And she's like gushing, like, thank you so much for paving the way. And he's like, thank you for carrying the torch.
That's great.
I love that little trifecta happening. Avery Brooks, Benjamin Sisko will never, ever return to Star Trek because that man is living in his own universe, and God bless him for it. But he busted down some barriers, and the payoff is getting we're seeing here, and Sarah Lofton being a part of that story. It was so nice to see him included in such an important way. Also, one last one I want to shout out. Stephen Colbert as the disembodied voice of the Academy computer. Really perfect, and brought me right back to Harvey Birdman when he was playing the news. What was it? The judge or the one of the lawyers? I can't remember, but Stephen Colbert, hilarious in Harvey Birdman, hilarious on Starfleet Academy. Okay, let's talk about the music. Now, Star Trek themes are typically iconic,
Gotcha.
or they're the Enterprise theme, which is iconic in its own way. And then
Yeah.
there is this. I have to admit, I never skip through Star Trek themes. I did every time after the first couple episodes on this one.
Wow.
Wasn't doing it for me. It's
Yeah.
a little too plunky and Grey's Anatomy and just not inspiring and majestic the way a Star Trek theme should be.
Yeah, I had my notes similarly. I thought it was a good theme. I don't think it's bad at all. But the bar is set at iconic.
Yeah.
Like, it's Deep Space Nine is number one in my books, and then who knows where, but like that is a high bar to reach, and this doesn't feel like it even really tried to reach that. Like, where's the bombast? Where's the camp?
Where's the horns? Where's
Ah,
the sweeping strings? That's what I expect in a Star Trek theme. Now, obviously you were wrong with Deep Space Nine, and TNG is the best, and that's okay, but DS9 is a really close second. I will
fine.
say, we were treated to 2 Rufus Wainwright songs, and that was unexpected.
Yes, yeah. But San Francisco in the first episode and Beautiful Child playing us out in the last episode. Love Rufus Wainwright. Love the queerness of the choice of just having him bookend the season like that.
Yeah,
It's so unexpected to hear contemporary music cues in a Star Trek show, full stop.
unless it's the Beastie
I
Boys for
really
some
enjoyed that.
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorite lines of dialogue, I think it's in the last episode, is Holly Hunter's character saying, "There's no Starfleet anthem, but what a good suggestion." And that's how I kind of felt.
Yes. What would it be? I mean, obviously actually it would be the DS9 theme. That would be the Starfleet anthem, I think.
As for the like incidental music, like it didn't stand out to me. I tried re-listening
Yeah.
to some tracks, and I'm like, "Oh, this is incidental music on a TV show. I don't want to listen to this. Fine."
That, that is a negative for me because, like,
You do listen to
maybe
these
it's
tracks?
no. But Star Trek incidental music from the 60s, the 90s, that
Uh,
is really important to me, and that does stick in my head. Uh, and yeah, in the last 10 years of Star Trek, I can't think of the incidental music adding to anything. Instead, like, sometimes we'll get a reference to great incidental music, like the battle theme from the one where Kirk and Spock battle each other when Spock is going through his horny phase, which is canon. Like, that's a great fight theme, and we've never really hit those heights since. So,
yeah.
come on, Star Trek. Bring me something iconic again, please. Let's talk about the fashion. I've got 1 note, 2 notes.
See, I think the fashion lands pretty strong in this show, but let's hear your
Oh, I
note.
don't disagree. I think it also lands strong, but I think it's pretty simple. 1, scants. And 2,
Yeah.
what's wrong? 2, great Starfleet uniforms in this century.
Yes.
Going back to the solid colors is great. It feels like an updated version of the original series with a TNG vibe, and like it's solid colors with like solid black stripes on shoulders or like on sides. Yeah, it's really clean, beautiful, militaristic, but also civilian. The Letterman jackets that they wear throughout are also really fantastic.
Yep.
And I also like to include like set design when we're talking about fashion. And
Yep.
this is one of the most beautiful Star Trek sets ever built. Like, from the the common area, which is divided into like little pod sections that are joined by like a major bridge, to the bridge, which is, I think I've heard, the largest bridge set ever built. It might be a repurposed Strange New Worlds bridge, but it is
Okay.
larger in size. And then the corridor set is actually a part of that, so it's all built out on this gigantic soundstage, and it's all connected, and yeah, it feels like a big ship. It feels like they built the fucking thing, and I love that.
And that soundstage is like a 1 hour drive away from where we are right now, Shane.
I
Why
know
can't we
someone
get
who
there?
did the
Why can't we break
costumes
it?
for this show, and I'm just I know
I
someone
hate
who
you.
worked on the set, and I don't know why I have never been invited.
Invite yourself. My God, have I taught you nothing? Audacity, Shane.
Oh,
Always audacity.
I know. I'm actually timid.
You did not mention my favorite set in the whole show, and that is Ake's office with the tiled benches, the cluttered mid-century Hollywood eclectic style of it all really
Hmm.
speaks to me. The hanging plants, the beams. It's such a beautiful room. I want to be in that room sitting gay on big chairs and sitting on those, having tea on those frankly uncomfortable looking tiled benches by the
Yeah.
fireplace. It's gorgeous. I love that room so much. If I have my choice of any captain's quarters, that's the one because it is cluttered and eclectic and it speaks to me so clear as a bell. But yeah, also the ship slash school set feels like a really fresh approach while also still evoking like a 1970s polytechnic. You know, like it feels like a
Yes.
campus. And I
Again,
love that.
another reason you can tell it was filmed in Toronto is that the vibe is very Toronto. Like, oh, I see that the courtyard has a lot of concrete furniture.
Love the tunics, love the varsity jackets, love the boots with like
Mm.
jodhpurs almost that they're wearing in some episodes. Like they have these
I
beautiful tight camel pants.
when I was in Vancouver last year, I went to the Fluvog store, and I swear to God, I was this close to spending $800 on a pair of Starfleet Academy Fluvog boots that would have gone
Uh,
up to here and
yeah,
would have looked fabulous on me.
I'm so sorry. I'll keep an eye out in the Value Village.
Yeah,
I'm sure
please
they'll
do.
show up eventually.
Yeah. 100 years from
Also, the
now.
Calico uniforms are sexy,
Hmm.
and the Calico phasers are such a slick piece of design. I kind of want to own a Calico phaser. And
Oh, yeah.
as we note, I am not someone who has surrounded myself with Star Trek stuff, but I might be ready to make an exception.
Wow, wow. We will
I'm
make Trekkie
very,
of you yet.
very selective about the things that I choose to populate my space with, as you can tell. Well,
Yeah. Okay,
uh,
and last, certainly not least, we have to talk about the queerness in this show. We've already mentioned that this might be the
yeah,
queerest Star Trek show, and it is. It is. Like, we've got Darum, we've got Jaden, we've got Laura and Reno, and everyone is a little gay in this show.
a little gay and a lot hot. Yeah, this is a queer show. It's kind of between this and Discovery, for which is the more queer show.
Hmm.
But Discovery got like a bit annoying about it. Like it was try hard. It was sitting you down for a lecture about diversity and inclusion. And it's like, no, just be gay. Don't tell me about it. Exactly what you
Exactly.
were saying up front. Like, I mean, I'm more than happy to sit through the lectures in other contexts, but in this context, no, I just want the boys to kiss each other. I just want the lesbians to argue about dinner. You know, I mean, the
Yes.
lesbians could also kiss each other, and the boys could also argue about dinner. Let me be very clear.
Well, let's
But
mix it up.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's have a little bit of everything. Yeah, queerness feels very matter of fact here. I think is a first for Star Trek in live action, though Lower Decks did it really well as well.
Hmm.
Lower Decks sort of, set the tone for this show, I think, in that regard. And the fact that we may actually get to see a male love triangle play out that involves actual lead characters, two of the lead characters on the show, and an incidental Kyle.
An incidental hottie.
That's so unprecedented. Oh, no, no, Kyle is gorgeous. I'm more than happy to watch Jaden kiss either Kyle or Darum, but
Or
ultimately I want
both
him
at the
to
same
kiss Darum.
time.
or both. But like, have him kiss someone. Like the slow burn is killing
Yeah.
me. If we're going to have Caleb's relationship be front and center, can we speed it up with the gay stuff? Because there is a courage that is rarely shown in portraying gay relationships on TV that is needed here, and they are already doing better than most other shows that have ever been made in terms of just acknowledging this love triangle. But please let me get to the a payoff, a complication, a
Yes.
forbidden kiss, something before the show gets pulled off the air by Paramount Skydance.
Yeah, honestly, let's like go full throttle before it's taken away from us. Let's have all three of them waking up in the same bed.
Yes.
Let's show all three of them shirtless at the same time in a shower, like a sonic shower, if you will. I'm ready to push boundaries of what is acceptable on television.
Right. Let's have that heated rivalry shower scene, but with a third body in the middle.
Yes, a Klingon. Is there anything else you want to add?
I mean, we mentioned Jet Reno and Laura Thought, a lesbian couple in the faculty. Love the energy those two bring. Again, like just give me more of that.
Yeah.
Give me more of that kind of queerness, because they are such fun to watch. Apologies to Jeannie Asheray, who's got to spend so much of her life having that makeup put on her. But I'm sorry, Jeannie, you're going to have to make the sacrifice so that I can enjoy it more.
Yeah, this is for us, not you. All right, let's get to our rating. Now we are doing things in a brand new way. We still give our base score of 5 points or up to 5 points for how much we enjoy this show or movie. And then we have our gay score where we cover the bonus topics that we just talked about: women, boys, music, fashion, and queerness. We've got the total score, but we've got the gay score separate so that you know, like, whether this is a show for you. Let's start with the base score, and I'm already going to tell you right off the bat, for me, I'm going to give it a 5. Even with my points of contention and it not being my favorite Star Trek yet, I still think
Mhm.
this is a phenomenal show.
Yeah, I was kind of on the fence 4 or 5 points because, there are things it could improve, but how can I do that? How can I give it less than you when I say I liked it even more than you did?
I tricked you into it.
You
It's
did
a
it.
real Q continuum conundrum.
If I
Now,
knew what that meant, I'd be furious.
how about the women? Are you going to give the women a bonus point?
Despite what I've said about Karima and other one, Karima 1 and Karima
Tarima
2.
and Genesis. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Holly Hunter is so phenomenal. Sam was such a discovery for me, like a character that turned me around on them that I came in wanting to hate and ended up loving. I love these women, and I think this show has a lot to offer in that regard. So it gets the point.
Yes, amen to that. Holly Hunter, Tig, Gina, they're all just phenomenal. And then the character of Sam, totally agreed. How about the boys? Was there enough boys to keep your interest?
Shane, yes, there were.
Yeah,
Yes.
don't ask stupid questions.
Oh my God. I need to find pictures of these boys doing model poses so I can print them out for my wall of boys. I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure
they
that
made the cut,
exists.
baby.
Yeah, they did. They absolutely did. Yeah, that's a point from me too. And then the music. And I'm telegraphing with the face I'm making how I feel about it. Love Rufus Wainwright, but two
Uh-huh.
Rufus Wainwright songs do not a music point make for me.
Two Wainwrights don't make a wrong. No, I'll workshop that. Yeah, it doesn't get the music point.
Okay, great. Fashion?
I have to give Ake's office fashion point. That's one of my favorite sets I've ever seen. And also, I just think, yeah, the style, they have cut these tunics and these boots and everything to perfection. I love the aesthetics of this world.
Me too, baby. Me too. I love the red and gray chrome of a starship bridge mixed with the solid blues and yellows and reds of a Starfleet uniform. Give me that point, baby. And
And the
then
queerness.
the queerness. I mean, how can we deny it? Like, the queerness is so happily front and center and not hidden in the background, not questionable, not like, oh, well, we can contextualize. No, it's queer.
It is queer. It's a queer show. God bless it. Even if it were just for the way Ake sits on a chair. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, very Riker coded.
So,
Pretty great score all around. In terms of, I mean, first, was there anything egregious about this whatsoever that is worth giving a penalty for?
I don't like the way this show represents the Betazoids, so I have to give it the penalty. No, I'll let it
Okay,
off. This time
honestly,
I'll let it go.
I would have understood if you'd done that. But no, you're right. The show is so woke. It's so woke. How could you take a point
So
away from
woke.
it?
Plenty of people have already done that.
Its gay score is 4 out of 5, which is stellar, really phenomenal. And then its combined Kiss Kiss Bang Bang score is a 9 out of 10. I feel like we haven't seen a 9 out of 10 in a long time. This feels good. This feels really good for this Trekkie baby.
Honestly, yeah, I came into this not actually knowing. We've not talked a lot about this show
No,
outside of the podcast, so I wasn't sure where you actually sat, and I wasn't sure where I actually sat
I
until I
wasn't
sat
sure
down to
where I
really think
actually
about
sat
it.
until we started talking about it. So,
Until I sat like this with my legs
uh,
pointing to the sky.
I'm also not wearing shoes. No, it was really
Yeah,
fun. It was
it's
really
a really
fun.
good show.
It's a great version of Star Trek. It feel like there's some Star Trek that feels like, okay, we're calling it Star Trek, but it's actually Discovery. This feels like it is firmly in the Star Trek universe. It knows where it belongs
Yeah,
in it. It's pushing the Star Trek envelope. It's pushing modern boundaries. And God, I hope that we get more than one season more. But if we just
yeah.
get 2 great seasons of this, then we got 2 really great seasons of Star Trek, I bet.
Yeah. If the haters want to keep on hating, they can do that. But like, I need to know what is the Star Trek that they love? Like, what is, if you claim that this is not your Star Trek, what is your Star Trek? Point to me on the
Great
doll
question.
where Star Trek touched you because I want to know.
And 11 Star Trek Into Darkness, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan, inexplicably.
Oh God, that might be the answer.
We can all agree that's the worst Star Trek, right? Maybe Star Trek 5, but yeah, there's no way that those aren't the answers that bad Trekkies would say is their favorite. Anyways, I digress.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this video, this is one of the only times we will be talking about Star Trek, unless I have my way. But we talk about so many other things, like Sherlock, like Heated Rivalry, a lot of Bond talk, and you can find all of that below by liking and subscribing. We love it when you comment in our videos. So tell us, what's your favorite Star Trek theme? Which is the Star Trek show for Republicans? The answer should be none. Uh, as
I think
always, no,
I'm
no,
trying to
no.
think of any sci-fi show that appeals to Republicans, and it's like, no, I think it is just Yellowstone is the only show they have.
That's their science fiction. Yeah.
That is.
Because there's no science and it's all fiction. Anyways, thank you, as always, for watching. Hailing frequencies are closed. Until next time, kiss, kiss.
Pew. That's what they sound like, right?
Yep. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button and subscribe to this channel. You can follow Kiss Kiss Bang Bang on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd at KKBBpod, or email us at kisskissbangbangpod@gmail.com.
Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is recorded in Toronto on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples.